The first step to setting up your opt-in funnel is always going to be creating a new form. So let's head into Websites and Funnels, and let's navigate over to the forms. You'll see here that we have already created some template forms for you that you can just duplicate. I highly recommend duplicating it because sometimes we need to do updates to these ones, and it also allows you to have a clean version for every opt-in that you have. So click on the three dots here and then duplicate. And then I'm going to just move that back to the root folder so that it's not sitting in the templates folder. To do that, click on the three dots again and say move to folder, move to root folder. Just remember that you can always pause this tutorial as I'm going along as well if I'm going too fast for you. Now click on the example opt-in form that I've just created, and here is where you can customize the form. You'll see that this one does have a shadow to it. If you're wanting to remove the shadow, you click on the Styles and Options button and over on Advanced, and I'm going to turn off the border, and I'm also going to zero out the shadow, and you'll see that removes it altogether. Of course, you can also customize any of these labels that you've got in here. If you're not wanting to collect a last name, you can also remove that. If you're wanting to add in additional form fields, this is where you can add them in here. And of course, link in your privacy policy, and if you don't need the terms of service on there, you can remove that one. So then we'll say save. This form has a transparent background, so this means that we can overlay it either on your externally hosted website or on a funnel page. In this tutorial, I'm going to be using a funnel page, but if you were placing this onto your external website, you would come back into this form and say integrate, choose inline, and then say get embed code, and use a HTML code block on your website to then paste this code in here. Don't forget also, if you're wanting to be notified when someone does download, you can set up those notifications in here. However, if you're expecting a large amount of people to be downloading your opt-in, it's not necessary and probably will just clutter up your inbox, so you don't need to do that. Otherwise, we're heading back out into automation workflows. And again, I've already got a template here for you, nurture email workflows, and duplicate this one so you've always got a clean version. Rename it and click on the title to enter it. First step here is to set the trigger as the form submitted. So again, we want to filter so that when that form that we just set up is filled in, it automatically triggers this workflow. So you can see here I did form is, and then example opt-in form, and that's now set as the trigger. If you're wanting to create a tag that is maybe specific to the topic of the opt-in, whether it's fertility or gut health, you can set it so that it adds this tag in here, or multiple tags even, so then you can do focused and targeted email campaigning to those opt-in tags. The first email that's sent out, again, I've created some easy swipe copy for you, but you're welcome to go ahead and replace all of these if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, click on the three dots and say Edit Design. Customize the colors, the copywriting, the images that you have in here, maybe even create a little mock-up of your opt-in file if you've got it. I always recommend, if it's a PDF download, hosting the opt-in on your Google Drive or some kind of cloud storage, and then adding the link into the button. And the reason why you do that is because some email platforms can mark your email as junk or spam if it has an attachment. And it also loads a lot faster if you just have the link to the freebie opt-in. So make sure you're doing it as view only, so then they can just download it from your cloud. I know that does feel like one more extra step for your audience. However, it can significantly impact the deliverability if it is an attached item. So I highly suggest doing that. So yep, thank them for downloading, say what the benefits are, a little bit about yourself, customize your footer here as well. If you haven't saved one as a global already, you can create it here and then save it as a global so that you're not having to recreate it on every one of these emails. You can also come in here and click on the three dots and say settings and change the subject and preview text in here. Otherwise, if I say save and exit out, you would be changing the from name, the email, the subject, and pre-header in these parts here. You can track the clicks. If they clicked on that button, you can track that. Keep in mind that if you say sync edits to template, it'll change the template that you have in your system. So I usually just say turn that off in this case and just track clicks or add tags if an action is taken. You can also test the email, send it to yourself to make sure it looks okay on both ends. Next, we have a setup where it waits a day. You can actually change this to 2 days if you want to. I recommend touching points with them either every day or every other day for the first week, and then that way they get to recognize your name coming into the inbox. If your opt-in was the first time that they've seen you on social media and they get the one email and then don't hear from you for 3 months until you do your next newsletter, then they may not recognize who you are. Whereas with the Nurture series, if you're coming in here and contacting them every day or every other day, they'll get to at least know your name, even if they're not following the actions that you've actually placed in the emails. The next email here is purposely set up to make it look like it's a personalized email sent directly from your inbox to theirs. So that's why it's not as pretty as the other one. Of course, you can change it over to the other stylized email template if that's what you want. But the swipe copy in here is kind of like having a conversation with them, how they're going and where are they up to in their journey. So it's up to you whether you want to keep this or not, or add in or duplicate this one here. If you're ever wanting to duplicate, click on the 3 dots here and say copy action, and you can just copy it in and replace it in here if that's what you're wanting to do. Again, we have another weight and a few more types of emails that I've put in here. The quick win that they can do to achieve their next step, and then a sort of like a testimonial dream client story that you've got for your experience. And then the last one says to add tag newsletter. And the reason why that I do this is so that when you're doing your newsletter campaigns, and if you do a blast out, you're sending it to this tag here and not the tags that are within this workflow or this opt-in workflow. And that's so that they don't, if they're on like say day 3 of this workflow and then you decide to send out an email campaign or email blast, they're not possibly getting an email 5 minutes apart. So that's why I say add the newsletter tag to your general audience once they're being removed from these workflows here. From here, it's always a great idea to test everything from start to finish. So publishing your funnel page or going to the page where you've added it on your external website and filling in the form and just testing that workflow. If you're wanting to test it all in one day, you can change the time of those wait times that's in between. Instead of saying wait 1 day, you can say wait 1 minute and just check that each one of those are flowing through. And then obviously coming back in here and changing it back to 1 or 2 days that you had it at. So just to recap, the first step is to make your form and then either put that form on a opt-in page on your current external website or create a page in your Alveo website, or if you're wanting a funnel page, you can do that like I showed you just here. Step 2 is customizing the funnel page if you're doing it in Alveo, and then step 3 is setting up the automation here. And of course, step 4 is testing it all. So I hope that's a really helpful overview from start to finish for you, and well done on taking the next step to grow your audience and having more impact online.